So the country today is mourning the passing of Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. She, of course, was the first woman to serve on the U.S. Supreme Court, died today at the age of 93. Now, those who knew her and worked with her are sharing their memories of the self-described ranch girl born in El Paso, Texas, grew up in Arizona, became Queen of the Court, as the BBC put it. Now, today, the former president, George W. Bush, said of O'Connor that it was fitting that Sandra became the first female appointed to our highest court because she was a pioneer, lived by the code of the West. She was determined and honest, modest, and considerate, dependable, and self-reliant. We're joined by Chuck Blanchard, former law clerk for Justice O'Connor, and Abby Taylor is with us as well, who co-founded iCivics with O'Connor. And after retirement from the bench, that tool now used by millions of students across the country to learn about our government. So we thank you both for being here. And I'd like to sit back and just hear some stories about just a wonderful American, if we can, for a few minutes. And Abby, why don't we begin with you and what you were thinking about and remembering about Justice O'Connor today?
Sure, absolutely. Now, of course, I had the opportunity to work with Justice O'Connor after she left the court, and she was really a force of nature. She said to me one time that the two people she met in her life who she felt had true charisma were Eleanor Roosevelt and Nelson Mandela. And to be honest, she was one of the few people I've met in my life with true charisma. And what I mean by that is she had this unique blend of optimism, of a collaborative spirit, and of pragmatism. And those things came together like magic. And when you were in a room with her, you felt like anything could be accomplished with her at the helm, with her sort of leading the charge. And she was so interested after she left the court in really leading the charge on civic education for our young people. And I just feel so privileged to have been able to work with her on that.
I'm sure you do. What was it like when she was on the court, Chuck, to be your clerk?
Oh, it was a great experience. I mean, she was like a surrogate mother. I mean, she really took that role very much so. She knew I was going back to Arizona. And so she made sure that I met every Arizonan that came in the chamber. So I met Barry Goldwater, Bruce Babbitt. She even found someone she wanted me to date in Phoenix. She was that much of a mother figure, and the life after the court was the same way. She kept in touch with the clerk. She called us her family. She treated our spouses as part of the family. She treated our children as part of her family. And so, my wife and my son are all mourning her as much as I am.
Don't tell me that what a story it would be if your wife was that person that she suggested you date, but I'm thinking that was not the case. That
didn't work for me, but okay. I've heard that worked for others.
Thought that would have been too good of a story, right? Abby, we'll put up one other statement. It's from Chief Justice John Roberts, who says, a daughter of the American Southwest, Sandra Day O'Connor, blazed an historic trail as our nation's first female justice. She met that challenge with undaunted determination, indisputable ability, engaging candor. There are a couple of things you could pick up on. Obviously, the historic nature of her appointment as the first woman to the court, but I also noticed a number of the statements today talk about her as a daughter of the American West, and I wonder how important both of those things, in your view, were to her.
Yeah, it was, I mean, both of those things, that was her together. You couldn't separate them out. She would talk about, and I think her collaborative spirit came from her both being a daughter of the West and having been a former legislator. She really believed in talking to people, not talking past people. She would tell us about barbecues that she'd have in her backyard, bringing together legislators in Arizona to try to get things done. And she approached her work on the court and after the court in that same way of, we need to get together, we need to talk to each other, we need to hear different views, we need to have civility, and we need to have pragmatism to get things done. And she really saw that as part of her kind of spirit of the West in terms of that sort of can-do attitude, that friendly nature, that roll up your sleeves and get the work done attitude. So that was really a part of everything that she was.
She was also such a key vote, Chuck, in many cases on the court itself. What would you say about her legacy of important votes, deciding votes? In one case, a presidential election was hanging in the balance. So many important cases and votes that were decided on because of the decision that was made by Sandra Day O'Connor.
Yeah, when I was clerking for her, she was viewed as a reliable conservative vote. But I think uniformly throughout her entire time as a justice. It was her approach to the law that remained a constant. And I think that approach is one that, quite frankly, is sorely lacking. And that is take each case as narrowly as possible, focus on the facts, decide what you have to decide, but leave for a future case larger issues. And so this sort of incremental, thoughtful approach allowed the court to correct when they went the wrong direction. And I think her vote's an affirmative action, where sometimes she was opposed to affirmative action, sometimes she was in favor of it. It was an example of how she very carefully tried to navigate the cases before her.
Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.